Welcome back to RecapX Studio. Today, we're diving into a powerful and emotional story from the 2011 biographical comedy drama film, The Intouchables. Spoilers ahead, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the journey. It all begins on a quiet night in Paris. The streets are calm, the city lights glowing softly, and Driss is behind the wheel, driving his employer Philippe through the city. At first, everything feels normal, but Driss quickly gets bored. Waiting in traffic isn't something he enjoys. Suddenly, he speeds up, weaving through cars, ignoring signals, and taking sharp turns as if the road belongs to him. Philippe watches from the back seat, silent but slightly amused. Then the sound of sirens fills the air. The police are right behind them. Instead of panicking, Driss smiles. He even makes a bet, 100 euros, that he can lose them. He pushes the car harder, speeding through the streets, but the police stay close. Within moments, they are surrounded. Most people would give up, but not Driss. He calmly raises the bet to 200 euros and suddenly changes his behavior. When the officers approach, he begins acting, pretending that Philippe is paralyzed and urgently needs to be taken to the hospital. The wheelchair in the back supports his story, and Philippe plays along, pretending to have a seizure. The officers hesitate, unsure of what to do. This no longer looks like a crime. It looks like an emergency. Instead of arresting him, they escort them, clearing the road and leading them through traffic like a real emergency convoy. The moment the police leave, Driss bursts into laughter, turns up the music, and As September starts playing, filling the car with energy. Philippe smiles, feeling alive in a way he hasn't in a long time. But this moment is just the result of something that began months earlier. Back then, Philippe was searching for a caretaker. Being wealthy but completely paralyzed, he needed someone to assist him in daily life. His mansion was filled with candidates, all professional, polite, and predictable. Each one treated him with sympathy and distance. Then Driss walked in, no appointment, no preparation, and no real interest in the job. He didn't even wait for his turn. He simply asked for a signature to prove he had been rejected so he could continue receiving unemployment benefits. He was blunt, unfiltered, and even a little rude, but something about him stood out. While others saw a problem, Philippe saw honesty. Instead of rejecting him, Philippe asked him to come back the next day. That night, Driss returned to his home, a small and crowded place filled with noise, siblings, and chaos. There was barely any space to breathe. His sister Mina tried to keep things under control, but life there was far from peaceful. Later that evening, his mother arrived, and the atmosphere changed instantly. She wasn't happy to see him. Driss had disappeared for months without a word, and now he returned as if nothing had happened. She had enough. She told him to leave. With frustration and disappointment, she told him to leave. Just like that, he was out. With nowhere to go, Driss spent the night outside with friends, laughing and pretending everything was fine, even though uncertainty lingered beneath the surface. The next day, he returned to Philippe's mansion, expecting a simple signature. Instead, he was given an opportunity, a 1-month trial job. At first, he didn't take it seriously, but he accepted. And just like that, two completely different worlds collided. Driss had to learn everything from scratch: how to lift Philippe, how to dress him, how to help him eat, and even how to handle deeply personal tasks. At first, it was uncomfortable. He complained, joked, and resisted. But slowly, something began to change. Instead of seeing a job, he started seeing a person. And Philippe finally had someone who didn't treat him like he was broken. Their connection grew through small moments, late-night conversations, shared jokes, and unexpected adventures. Driss brought chaos into Philippe's structured life, while Philippe gave Driss a sense of direction. One night, everything shifted when Philippe suddenly struggled to breathe. It was a serious moment, but instead of panicking, Driss stayed calm. He spoke gently, comforted him, and helped him through the pain. That moment built real trust between them. From then on, their bond became deeper. Driss began pushing Philippe to live again, to go outside, take risks, and enjoy life. They went on drives, visited museums, argued about art, and laughed at things that didn't make sense. Driss never pretended to understand everything, and that honesty made their friendship stronger. Meanwhile, Philippe had a secret, a woman named Eleanor. Okay. They had been exchanging letters for months, but had never met. To Driss, it seemed pointless, so he pushed Philippe to take a chance. He encouraged him to call her, to step beyond written words. At first, Philippe hesitated, but eventually he made the call, and that moment changed everything. For the first time in years, he felt hope. At the same time, Driss was changing too. He became more responsible, more aware, and more focused. He tried helping his younger brother, who was getting involved in trouble, but reality eventually caught up. Philippe realized that Driss had his own life and responsibilities and couldn't stay forever, so he made a difficult decision and let him go. There was no argument, no drama, just understanding. Driss returned to his old world, but he wasn't the same person anymore. He used what he had learned to build a better life. He found a job, stayed away from trouble, and began moving forward. Meanwhile, Philippe struggled again. His new caretaker was perfect on paper but lacked warmth and connection. There was no laughter, no energy, and no life. Something was missing, and that something was Driss. Days passed and things only got worse. Eventually, Philippe couldn't handle it anymore, so Yvonne called Driss. Without hesitation, he came back. What followed felt familiar. Another drive, freedom. But this time, it wasn't about chaos. It was about closure. Driss took Philippe away from the city, away from everything, and brought him to the sea. The sound of the waves, the fresh air, and the open horizon brought a sense of peace. Before leaving, Driss did one last thing. He arranged a meeting between Philippe and Eleanor. This time, Philippe didn't run. He stayed. And when she arrived, she didn't see the wheelchair or his condition. She saw him. And she smiled. That moment said everything. This story isn't just about friendship. It's about change, growth, and second chances. Two completely different people from completely different worlds who changed each other's lives forever. And that is what makes this story unforgettable. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next recap.
And he has exactly 25, matching their time together. The next day, Driss goes to talk to Mina when she's leaving school, who is a bit offended because he hasn't been answering her messages except to ask her to look for the egg. She also tells him about some cops that have been calling their home. Afterward, he visits Adama, who confesses he was found with 30 grams on him. Driss wants to take him to lunch, but Adama refuses and instead gets in the same suspicious car from before. Later on, Driss is allowed to be present while Philippe dictates his letter for Eleanor to Magali. He thinks this purple prose is very boring and that Philippe should be more direct. He's also baffled to hear that this has been going on for 6 months and they never exchanged pictures. When he finds her phone number on one of the letters, he takes it as a sign and calls her, obliging Philippe to take the phone and finally speak to her outside the written word. Their conversation goes so well, Philippe is now on the phone with her all the time, even right before he and Driss attend the opera, during which Driss laughs and makes fun of the costumes. The next day, Driss convinces Philippe to accept to exchange pictures with Eleanor and chooses one of him in the wheelchair. Afterward, while he's painting, Elisa bursts into his room to ask him for cigarettes and makes fun of him for trying to be artistic. Getting angry, he kicks her out before going to see Philippe, who is currently asking Yvonne to change the chosen picture for one of him when he wasn't quadriplegic. She hides the picture inside the escort file right before Driss burst in, complaining about Elisa and telling Philippe he needs to discipline her, something Yvonne agrees with. Philippe agrees to talk to her, but he's mostly surprised when Driss lets it slip that he's been painting. Days continue to pass, and the friendship between Philippe and Driss continues to grow. Driss takes him to play in the snow and brings him with him when he goes out for a run. Philippe gets him his first suit and scolds his daughter while Driss listens to him through the baby monitor. When Driss finishes his first painting, he shows it to Magali, who slaps him when he tries to kiss her. Philippe, however, likes the painting and promises he'll try to sell it. The two of them have a great time with each other, enjoying things like getting a faster car, sharing joints, and even hiring escorts together. When Philippe's birthday comes, he isn't very excited about it. Every year, he pretends to be surprised that they're throwing a party and has to meet with all these relatives that only come to see him on the date to check he's still alive. Philippe says it'll all be rather boring. While he and the guests enjoy some live classical music, Driss searches for Elisa, who is crying in her room after having taken some of Yvonne's pills, which won't kill her as she expected. The reason why she's sad is that Bastien broke up with her and called her a tart, so she asks Driss to talk to the boy, which he accepts to do for a price. Meanwhile, Philippe is showing Driss painting to his relative and manages to convince him to buy it for 11,000 euros. Driss goes back to the dining room and chats with Yvonne, who tells him Magali is in a relationship with someone named Fred, but things are rather rocky at the moment, giving Driss hope. As the party begins to die down, Philippe makes Driss listen to some of the most important songs in classical music history, but he could only joke in response. After the band is done, he brings his iPod and plays Boogie Wonderland by Earth, Wind and Fire before he starts dancing right in the middle of the floor. He's an incredible dancer and he even convinces the rest of the party to join him and dance with him, which Philippe enjoys watching. Later, when putting Philippe to bed, Driss opens Eleanor's latest letter to him. She sent her picture, showing she's rather pretty, and is telling him they should meet next week when she visits Paris. When the day of the date comes, Yvonne and Driss put Philippe through dozens of outfits until they find the perfect one. And since it's Yvonne the one that will take Philippe to the date, Driss uses his day off to visit Bastien and threatens him until the boy accepts to apologize to Eliza and to bring her croissants every day. He also asks him to fix his hair. Afterward, he visits his mother at work, but only to watch her from afar. At the restaurant, Yvonne and Philippe are waiting for Eleanor, who is very late. After waiting for an hour, Philippe gives up, calls Driss to ask him to take him away, and then leaves the restaurant without noticing Eleanor is arriving at the same time. That same night, Philippe takes Driss with him in his private plane and gives him the money he got for selling the picture, making him immeasurably happy. They make it to the countryside the next morning, and Philippe decides to go paragliding, dragging Driss with him as well. Driss doesn't want anything to do with it, but after initially freaking out, he ends up enjoying the experience. When they return home, Adama is there waiting for Driss and gets scolded when he sees the scars on his face. Adama will still not tell Driss what's happening in his life though, so Driss makes him wait in his room while he calls Mina to tell her not to worry and goes to put Philippe to bed. Philippe, however, isn't sleepy yet. After making Driss look at a painting with him, he asks him about his family, which Driss at first doesn't want to talk about but eventually gives in. It turns out Adama technically isn't his brother and his parents aren't actually his parents, they're his aunt and uncle. They fetched him from Senegal when he was 8 because they couldn't have kids, and his real name is Bakari Bassari, but because other kids had that name, they called him Idris, and that became Driss. One day, his aunt miraculously was able to conceive, and after his uncle died, there were other men and more kids as well. In the same way Driss had talked to him about Elisa, Philippe points out that Adama needs discipline, so he fires Driss so he can be there with his family because he can't spend his whole life taking care of an old man. The next morning, after Bastien has brought his daily croissant while wearing a better hairdo, Driss packs his bags and gets ready to go. Magali comes to say her goodbyes, and when Driss tries to hit on her one last time, Magali introduces him to his significant other Fred, which is short for Frederic. Turns out Magali isn't interested in men, and Driss gives up on the spot. On his way out of the house, he gives the baby monitor back to Yvonne and teases her for having lied to him about Magali just to mess with him. In return, she gives him the escort file he had started, and he's disappointed to find the picture he had chosen is hidden there. Driss throws away the file, but he keeps the photo for himself. Once outside, he finds a car once again blocking the entrance, so he asks him to move away even if he doesn't work there anymore. When Adama calls him out for it, Driss says it's a matter of principle. A few hours later, the two brothers go pick up their mother at the station while back at the house. Philippe is having his first dinner together with his new caretaker, who is stuffy and boring, and Philippe decides to leave him without even having a bite. Since Yvonne is out on a date with the gardener, nobody is there to scold him for it. As days pass, Driss goes back to his old life. He hangs out with his old friends again and tells the guys from the suspicious car not to bother Adama anymore. When he goes to an interview he doesn't have enough experience for, he manages to win over the employer by calling himself pragmatic and using all the art knowledge he acquired while working for Philippe. This lands him a job as a driver. Philippe continues to dislike his new caretaker and is in a constant bad mood. One night, he refuses anyone in the house to help him with his phantom pain, so Yvonne calls Driss and asks him to come over. That's how they find themselves in the situation from the beginning, with the cops chasing after them first and escorting them to the hospital later. After that little adventure, Driss drives Philippe to the coast, and the sight of the sea helps Philippe calm down. Sometime later, Driss takes care of Philippe's overgrown beard before taking him to a restaurant for lunch, but he doesn't stay, because someone else will be making Philippe company today. Driss wishes him luck and finally gives him back his egg before leaving, and Philippe starts worrying about being alone until he sees who his date is, Eleanor, who is delighted to see him and doesn't mind the chair at all. The real Count Philippe Pozzo di Borgo now lives in Morocco. He has remarried and has 2 daughters. The real Driss, actually called Abdel Yasmin Selou, has his own firm and is also married with 3 children. The 2 men continue to be very close friends to this day. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.